Ladies and gentlemen, it's Coven 775, episode 2.
Every yard gotta earn it. Small town kids with a big city purpose. We bring the highlights, they bring the pressure. Friday night legends getting built by the quarter. Cameras rolling out, the whole state watching. Every touchdown got the whole crowd rocking. Northern Nevada put the city on the map. Cover 775 where the real ones at.
Tonight we got Coach Rob Hummel, state champion coach, man. Everybody ain't got one of those, you dig? And as always, to the right, I got my brother, Mr. Jeffrey Flexen. What say you, boy?
Yeah, shout out to Spanish Springs High School. We'll get this kicked off tonight.
They the champs. Shout out to Spanish Springs, man. We got a chance to watch them at Raider Stadium do their thing, you know what I mean? Pretty
Ain't
cool.
no shortcuts. Every yard gotta earn it. Small town kids with a big city purpose. We bring the highlights, they bring the pressure. Friday night legends getting built by the quarter. Cameras rolling out, the whole state watching. Every touchdown got the whole crowd rocking. Northern Nevada put the city on the map. Cover 775 where the real ones at.
Let's do this, Jeffrey.
What's going on, everybody? We are Cover 775. Welcome to the episode number 2. Now, to give you a little briefing on what Cover 775 is about, we are bringing highlights and coverage to all of Northern Nevada, specifically 4A and 5A. Now, the smaller schools will still give you shout-outs week to week. But we want to, this summer, we're kind of highlighting all the coaches and all the programs, and then leading up to the season start, we're going to have a live show every Sunday that's going to recap the games, recap the highlights, recap the stats. Yep. Just give recognition to these kids. We got some awards.
Yeah, definitely. We have we got championship belts for 4A and 5A, offensive and defensive player of the year, as well as head coach, right? What we want to do is we want to start to bring awareness of how great the talent is. I've been here for about 11 years, and I noticed that we have some incredible talent, but we don't see the recruiters coming through. We don't see people giving them enough love. We don't see enough butts in the seats in some of these games, and these kids are working hella hard, and they deserve to be recognized. And on this platform here, we're going to make sure they get a whole lot of love, man.
So that's what you can expect from Cover 775 on a weekly basis from here on out, covering football on the 775.
Now, we have the pleasure tonight of having a state 5A high school championship coach in the building. Coach Rob Hummel is in the building. Salute to Coach Rob Hummel. Bring my man in the room, man.
What's going on, Coach? Thanks for joining us tonight.
Hey, fellas. Thanks for having me. Love the intro. That's a cool video, setting everything up.
Appreciate that.
Thanks a lot, Coach. Now, listen, Coach, we got an opportunity. Like I said, he probably told you earlier, I work with a lot of the McQueen. I work with a lot of kids, period, around town with Strength and Conditioning, my company, War Daddy Strength Academy. We got a chance to watch you guys play at Spanish Springs. Spanish Springs played in Raider Stadium, and we were just really happy that we had 2 teams from the north to go down there and handle business. What was that like for you, bringing that first state title to Spanish Springs as a head coach? And I don't know who else had state titles there at Spanish Springs, but man, you really did that, man. What did that mean to you, Doc?
You know what? I just want to give a shout out to our community first and foremost, and our administration, our kids. You know, it was quite the experience. It was quite the year just in general. And we've been working to build the program up for several years, trying to get to a point where we're competing at a championship level at the end of the season, both locally and at the state level. And last year was a year that a lot of things just came together. And you know, each week the guys played with an extreme amount of focus. Their preparation level was as best as I ever seen from high school kids. And then when we got on the field, we executed at a high level. And you know, our coaching staff, you know, week in and week out, did a great job preparing the athletes. And those boys went out and executed, and they did it at a high level, and it was fun. I mean, they had a lot of fun doing it. I miss that group already, that group of seniors. But in terms of an experience down there, Getting to play at Allegiant Stadium, I'm just so happy the kids got to do something like that. I mean, most kids, only get to be in a stadium like that if they're watching somebody else play, and they got an opportunity to get on the field, be in the locker room, and then coming out on top. That's what we had hoped for in the first place, and just the whole experience. It's just so memorable, and you look back on it, and the memories are never going to go away from a season like that. And then you talk to the kids, and you see them, and there's always just a smile on their face. The ones that were part of that group, and just really happy and blessed to be a part of it.
Now, let me ask you. We're all dads here. We're the Dank Dad Sportscast. We have another show we do. What was that like, winning that championship with your boy? What was that like, sharing that championship with your boy? How long have you coached your son? And up to that moment, like, what was that like that's a very rare thing to do, to win a championship with your son. Like, what was that moment like?
Just incredibly special. I will say that, it felt like I was able to do that with a lot of sons, if that makes sense.
Yes, good stuff.
With all those young men, and not just the ones from this season. I got into this a long time ago, not because I wanted to coach my kids and stuff like that. I truly love the game, and I very early on, the relationships that were built from coaching just in general were really special and important to me. Seeing those kids years later, and catching up with them, and them wanting to come, give you a hug, and I said it after the game, and I truly mean it. What we accomplished, started several years back with a lot of different groups of kids that kind of set the foundation for the standard that we're trying to implement at Spanish Springs. And I told them all afterwards that there's a lot of kids that I communicate with on a regular basis that graduated 5, 6, 7 years ago, and I told them that they're all part of that championship, and that was something that I truly meant. And I was blessed to be able to coach all three of my boys through their high school career. With Brady being my youngest, being extra special, to be able to do something like that, win a state title. I mean, I don't know how much of it's all set in yet, but to say that it was special is probably an understatement. I mean, it was just truly a memorable experience.
That's amazing. So before we dive too deep into the football program and what you guys did last year and the expectations of this year, what is your background in coaching and football and just in general? How'd you get started at Spanish Springs?
So, okay. Well, I don't know how far back you want to go, but
you don't have to go too far. Just, you can start with the Spanish Springs.
Yeah. Well, I'll just give you a brief history. So I actually grew up in North Dakota, born and raised, small town, North Dakota, on a farm where the funnest thing I got to do was play high school sports. Most of our stuff was manual labor on the farm, and
like do you mean like back in these days?
How far back though?
Like this
this guy right here. Man. Look at this handsome fella. Come on, man. Look at this guy. Okay.
Wow. Like back to that level.
What
else were we talking about?
Hold on. How far can we go back? Because we don't want him to go. We got another. We got any more?
I mean, this is as far back as
that's him and mom, huh? That's you and mom.
Yeah, that was right there. Yeah. Wow, that's impressive, gentlemen. Now, you do a little recon. I can see that.
Oh yeah, I mean, coach. We definitely stay doing our homework. Always, we gotta come correct.
We gotta come correct.
All moments, we gotta come correct.
Oh man, college right there.
Yeah, Jamestown, correct?
Now listen, Coach. The quote was, "Rob was a nice guy, calm presence, and you had a lot of." He was a major team guy, and he was always involved in team and family.
Had no problem blocking.
They said you were a
At
grown
Jamestown.
man since you came out the womb. They said you were super mature from the time you came out the womb, Coach. Okay? And let me tell you something. Your sister, she was the trainer on your college team at Jamestown, and you wanted her to stay away from this guy named McIntosh, but you weren't able to do it.
Yeah,
You weren't.
yeah.
Now listen,
Yeah.
Coach was tying his shoes. He was ready to go back in the block. They said you were selfless. They said that you were one of the most team guys ever created, and I think that that's what makes you a state champion head coach.
I appreciate
Great dad,
that.
whole nine, man.
I appreciate that. Yeah, that last picture you threw up there, that was my guys right there. That was Corey Urban. There's McIntosh 14. He's now my brother-in-law. He's a great man. I love him to death. And Eddie Renneria there on the right. That was the starting wide receiver crew right there when we went 10 personnel. As a great man right there. The memories are coming back to me now that you guys threw that stuff out there.
Should.
I mean, stuff like that doesn't leave you. Like I said, you guys already know, but just for the people that are out there, I got to experience a lot of success at the high school level, and those memories stick with me to this day. And I've always told
Mr. Football in North Dakota, Mr. Football in North Dakota from Strasburg High School, correct?
Yes, sir. That is correct.
Okay, just want to make sure I gave you that. I'm sorry. All right,
Playing 9-man football, I heard.
9-man football.
Thank you. Hey, so here, because you got me down to this nostalgic lane right here. I'm gonna give you some inside info that you probably are not aware of. So, my senior year after the season was over, being recruited by quite a few different schools, and North Dakota State was one of the main ones that I wanted to attend, and they were recruiting me, and I sat in our little library in Strasburg High School for about an hour and a half with the offensive coordinator of North Dakota State, who wanted me to come play for him. That offensive coordinator at that time was Bob Babbage, or excuse me, the head coach was Bob Babbage. That offensive coordinator was Gus Bradley, who was the guy that was recruiting me there. And he couldn't get Bob Babbage to pull the trigger on a scholarship for me. They offered me a preferred walk-on. It's just kind of crazy. You see the career that Gus Bradley had. I mean, he went all the way. He was NFL head coach for several years, currently a coordinator in the league. And he was sitting in my little high school telling me that he had me at his number one receiver in the state of North Dakota on his recruiting board, but couldn't get Coach Babbage to pull the trigger because he offered 2 receivers out of Texas. But
Wow.
Yeah, just a crazy story. I mean, the college ranks, the experience I had at the University of Jamestown, lifelong friendships. I've been in a fantasy football league with several of my college teammates ever since we were playing back in early 2000s. Talk to those guys on a regular basis. My former head coach, who was a huge mentor in my life, Tom Dosh, he actually just became the head coach again at the University of Jamestown after bounced around a few other things. And the crazy part is one of my teammates, who's a good friend of mine, who was previously the head coach and played for Coach Dosh, is now his boss as the athletic director.
What's that like?
Yeah, I don't know. It's he's a great dude, and they have a great working relationship. So, talk about full circle type of moments. But those experiences really shaped who I am in terms of a work ethic, character, and family's always been a huge part of my life. In the sport of football, I think there's so much real life stuff that can be taught. And, my whole thing was developing relationships and developing young men to be great members of the community, productive members of society, honorable, hardworking, and also, they get the opportunity to play football. It is kind of the way I look at it. And I think that success comes from doing a lot of these other things right. And preparation's a big part of it. And, like I said, just truly blessed to be able to work with kids that, bought into what we were trying to accomplish and are currently trying to accomplish now. I told the kids, probably the hardest thing to do is to win the first title. The next hardest thing to do is to repeat as a champion when you got the bullseye on your back.
So what got you to Reno from North Dakota?
So I lived in North Dakota for 32 years. My wife and I, high school sweethearts, went to school, and we were looking for kind of a change. I think more than anything, change of climate was one of the big things, even though ironically a lot of people in Reno complain about the weather since I've been here. It's like the weather here is pretty nice. The weather here is pretty nice.
Definitely.
And, we were looking around for some areas, and this was one of the ones that had some proximity to family. My wife's biological father had lived out in Colfax, California for quite some time, which is just over the hill.
Yep.
So we kind of checked out this region, pretty heavily in early 2015. A job popped up at North Valley's high school, which I got an interview for. When we came out here and did the interview, the weather was beautiful.
So you were coaching. You were coaching in North Dakota at that time before you came over here?
So I was a head track coach, and then I was coaching. I had coached football up there, obviously, but I had taken a step back for a couple of years when I got my master's degree. Was still coaching some girls basketball, and I was still head track coach when I had moved out here, and then ended up getting a job at North Valley's in 2015 on like July 22nd or something like that. And they basically was like, hey, if you want the job, we need you here August 2nd. So I had
a week. Okay, cool.
Yeah, basically got 10 days to put the house up for sale, pack up a family of four kids plus my spouse, and find accommodations out here, and just take a big leap of faith more than anything. And was at North Valley's for a year, didn't coach football that season. Getting here beginning of August, they were already, into what they had going on. I did coach track there that spring, and then got hired at Spanish Springs the following year to be their special teams coordinator, coach receivers and DBs. And then I was a, weights and PE teacher there and coached under Eric Borja for a few years.
Eric Borja was my track coach at McQueen.
There you go.
There
you go. Another full circle moment.
Shout out to Coach Borja.
Salute.
Yeah, there you go.
And now all these accolades came out of it too.
Yeah, now you are the Northern Nevada 5A Coach of the Year. You got presented by the Raiders to be the Nevada Coach of the Year. I saw the video where they kind of surprised you with that after winning the state title. How did that feel before you coached?
I told my admin afterwards, I'm like, they did pretty good, because for them to pull that off with me not knowing it was pretty impressive. I usually have a pretty good idea of stuff going on in our building, especially early in the morning, and they snuck everybody into the gym while we were lifting in the weight room, which is just adjacent to the gym. And they had sent me a text, and they were just like, hey, we'd like to, talk to you and some of your players right after you're done lifting. And this was, before we were getting ready to head to state. So I thought it had something to do with that. I thought they were going to basically, give us a come to Jesus talk about behaving ourselves in the hotel and on the bus. I thought that's what we were going in for. And here, get surprised with that. Just very grateful and blessed. And, I told the staff, I told the players, it's a group thing. I mean, I might be steering the ship, but I mean, it ain't going anywhere without everybody else, buying in and putting the work in and being committed to what we have going on. And, just grateful for that whole group of people that I get to work with on a regular basis. And then obviously the athletes, that put the work in and got the job done in the field.
So you got that accolade before you win one state?
Wow. That's pressure.
So I got the Coach of the Year, the Tom Flores Coach of the Year award before I went to state. Yes.
Wow,
That's
coach.
pressure.
Well done, sir. Well done.
That's pressure.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I appreciate that. Well, they maybe they knew something. I don't know, but we but I was speaking at the Glazier Clinic back in January, middle, I think it was the middle of January here in Reno, and Jordan Aguilar, who works with the Raiders, had messaged me, and he was like, "Hey, coach," because part of that award was a check for the program, $2,000 check for the program, put towards different things and whatever, and they had, and Jordan had told me that I was nominated for the Don Shula National Coach of the Year award. So each NFL team gets to nominate one coach per season for that award, and then there's one winner from the AFC and one winner from the NFC. Well, it was just grateful for that nomination. Didn't win that award, and they made me aware of that. But Jordan from the Raiders told me, he's like, "Hey, you're gonna be at the Glazier Clinic." Yep, I'll be there. I'm speaking. He's like, "Well, I want to give you something. Your check from the Tom Flores Award." I said, "Okay, cool." So we go in there, and it was after a presentation just got over, and he calls me up, and Robert Gallery was there, former NFL, first pick of the draft, played for the Raiders several years in the Seahawks. He was in Reno too when I got the award initially, and they pulled me up to the front, and here they surprised me with 2 Super Bowl tickets, that were all expense paid, trip to the Super Bowl on top of it. So, and the Super Bowl was like in 10 days from when that event was. So cleared the calendar real fast, and my wife and I went and got to experience that. It was really cool being down in the Bay, and being part of that whole experience was just completely grateful. I wish I could have took everybody along that was a part of what we got to accomplish, but with the way that works out, the Raiders probably would have went broke paying for all that with all those people. But yeah, it was quite the experience.
So now I know I'm friends with your offensive coordinator, Nick. I've known Nick for a long time. Shout out to Nick and that new baby. Congrats, brother.
Yeah.
He was kind of telling me a little bit. You guys got to reload for this upcoming season. There's some reloading that has to be done. How are you guys managing that compared to your heavy offense that you had last season to now kind of transitioning to getting it back, like you said, repeating?
Well, I mean, we had 33 seniors last year, so I mean that's a huge number. And all 11 defensive starters and then 7 offensive starters were seniors.
Wow.
Now, here's what I'll say. There's a lot of guys that are counting us out already, saying, "Hey, they were senior heavy," But what I look at is, we do have some experience coming back in some key spots. But the other thing is, like, those guys that we're asking to be starters for us this year, they were competing against, the best team in the state last year, day in and day out in practice and in the weight room and everywhere else. So they, number one, they know what it takes. And then, I challenged them, and they know what the expectation is. And we talk about what the standard is now, and a 13-0 standard is about as good as you can get in terms of what you're trying to shoot for and what you're trying to accomplish. Mm-hmm. So they are well aware of that. We definitely have, like I said, some big shoes to fill in a lot of different spots. But I think we got guys that are up to the challenge. We returned some guys with, like I said, some starting experience and guys that were big time players last year, like Braden McDonald, for example.
Is that the tight end? Is that the tight end kid?
That's tight end, yeah.
He's a stud. Let me tell you something right now. He went to UNR, and it was all eyes on him. And it was maybe 1 or 2 kids who were from out of town, Of course, my McQueen boys were definitely in the mix, really making some great plays out there and looking really good. But this kid, hands down, he walked in the room and let everybody know who he was right away at his position.
Yeah.
He killed
it.
Yeah.
He did well, and he garnered an offer out of that performance. You know, they had been recruiting him for a while. You know, and he's a guy that last year for us was a mainstay at the tight end position. He do a lot of different things. He was a first team all region guy. We're going to ask him to play some more. You know, he's a rotational defensive end for us last year. This year he's gonna play a lot more DN in addition to what he did last year. With, you know, he's right there is probably our top defensive end in terms of being, you know, with experience and ability. So we got him coming back. We're excited about. We got 2 offensive linemen, you know, returning from last year's group, and that group of offensive line was outstanding last year. Coach Jefferson did an outstanding job with those young men, and we got 2 of those guys coming back. Both of those young men are juniors.
Who are they? Who are those 2 guys?
So Kalen Aguilar and Elijah Gustafson.
Okay.
Both played guard for us last year, and we're planning on having them continue to play guard and be able to communicate and work with, you know, the guys that are around them. If you visualize how the line's set up, you got your 2 guards, basically be able to talk with the tackles in the center, and obviously work with those guys that we got, you know, fighting for spots right now on the offensive line. And then we got Deacon Buddy at the wide receiver position as well. Deacon was our number 3 receiver last year. Poised to have a really big season. You know, in an offense last year that had 2 first-team receivers and a first-team tight end and a second-team running back, you know, Deacon might have got overshadowed a little bit with some of his abilities, but when he got called on, he made plays, and he's going to have to step into a much bigger role this year. He's another guy that he's probably going to end up being an FCS or maybe even an FBS offer type of a kid at the receiver position that we're really excited about. So, I mean, those 4 with Braden at the tight end, Deacon at the receiver, and then our 2 linemen, Kalen and Elijah, are our 4 returners in total out of 22 spots. And those guys will be heavily relied on the offensive side. Defensively, you know, we've got guys that have had some starts but weren't full-time starters. And then we got just a ton of competition right now at a lot of different spots on the defense, which I love. I love the competition aspect. I want kids to have to get after it. We just got back a couple of weeks ago from our team camp. We do a team camp every year. That's something that Coach Borjas started, and I continued it. We haven't missed a team camp. We take our varsity and JV, and usually we get out of town. The last couple of years, we were at UNR when they brought the team camp back. But this year, with all the renovations they were doing up there, they didn't have enough room to host one. So we went to Western Oregon University this year. It was the first time being to that one. Great camp. Got a lot of competition. Got a lot of football in a few days. And for us, it's a huge evaluator because it's full contact for portions of it.
Oh, wow.
So you get to see, you know, what guys are made of, how they respond when they're getting their ass kicked, how they respond when they're having some success, how they respond to having to identify different stuff that you can't really game plan for in a hurry because, you know, there were 17 varsity teams there, you know, and everybody's running something a little bit different, varying levels of talent. There's a couple of really good schools from Washington that were there. And it was just a great experience. And for us coming out of that, a lot of learning came from it. And, you know, we're using that now to constantly work with the guys in the summertime in terms of, hey, these are areas that we got to improve on, and we continue to work at it. And it's just been something that really kind of jumpstarts us always into the fall. And I think, you know, gives us an advantage going into the regular season.
Now this is semi-loaded question, but would you say with all the kind of the semi-new faces that you got to work with, I wouldn't want to say new faces, but, you know, guys that maybe weren't starters before, would you say the program is and the kids are just as hungry? Because there's a lot of talk now of kids, you know, that are in middle school saying, oh, I want to go to Spanish Springs. I want to go to Spanish Springs because you guys now set the bar of an excellent season. So do you think the hunger is still there?
Well, can I piggyback off of that? Also, too, I just wanted to say down here, like, I also have heard that, and I think just not Spanish Springs football, it's Spanish Springs a lot. Your girls softball, baseball, like you guys are starting to become a destination spot here in the north. And so it seems like a lot of pressure. And what's funny is to hear you name off all those names of guys that you got, to reload with. It doesn't sound like you have that you've fallen off that much, especially when those guys have been underneath of those guys. And I think that's what makes great lineage of good football teams is when you've played, I played under the Brady Hummel. I played under this guy.
Well, and I played at McQueen back in 03 to 07, and that was the Ken Dalton era of head coaching. It was multiple state titles, and the expectation was undefeated. One loss was unacceptable, and if you lost, our team felt like the season was over with at that point. And that expectation is difficult to maintain. So I just want to make sure that the program is still, those kids aren't satisfied and they want more and they want to continue to get more. Do you feel like that's the vibe in the locker room still?
And one more thing, and is Spanish Springs the new hotspot for sports in Northern Nevada? Go for it.
Well, I'm going to try to hit all those points there, gentlemen. Those are great questions.
All right.
I first of all, I feel like our school in general has probably had the most competitive group of sports for several years now. I think we're just being talked about more now because we just got a football state title, which is obviously a major accomplishment. Our softball program has won some state titles. Our wrestling program has won some state team titles. We've had some golf programs win, state team titles. Our tennis programs won some state team titles. So we've had that, take place. And I'll say this. We got a lot of coaches up there at the school right now that, number one, have a lot of the same philosophies that I do in terms of, building work ethic, building character, building relationships with kids, and that all transpiring into success. And we got a lot of coaches up there that are willing to work with multi-sport athletes. I'm a huge proponent. I'm a huge proponent of multi-sport athletes. I think it's critical. And, I don't know of a coach at Spanish Springs right now that isn't a proponent of multi-sport athletes. We all have the same belief that that's something important. And so you'll see that most of our football players play something else. I mean, it's a small percentage. There's only about 20% of our guys that are football only. About 80% of them are wrestlers, or they're basketball players, or they run track, play baseball, lacrosse. I mean, they're doing something in addition to playing football. And, I think when people figure out what leads to success, that helps, transcend into other programs, especially when you got the same kids involved in those programs. So I think that's a big part of it. Hotspot, I don't know. I mean, I think our area is a great area. I think the whole valley is a great area to live. I mean, I've always been a huge proponent myself of trying to build up your community, so that the people that are within your community want to stay in your community. And that was something that I said right when I took the job, was like, hey, no offense to any other program, but I don't want our kids to go anywhere else. If they live in the Spanish Springs community, I want them to want to go to Spanish Springs.
Right.
And so it was about, okay, well, how do we do that? Well, we got to build the program the right way. We got to be patient with it.
Got to make them want to come, right?
Yeah, and we got to put an experience out there and create an atmosphere that people want to be a part of. And our home game atmosphere, is still not quite where I'd like it to be in terms of intensity and, packed every night and whatever else. But I would argue that you'd have a hard time in Northern Nevada finding a better one than what we have at our home games, especially when we're playing a rival and stuff like that. We got a good facility, which is cool. And like I said, we expect to perform well. And going back to what you said there about, the standard and are the guys hungry? Yeah. And I let them know all the time, like, they're performing to the standard, whether it's in the weight room, the preparation side of things,
Good stuff.
On the practice field, and I told him, hey, last year's team is gone. Even though we got guys that were part of it, like nobody's coming to save you, so those guys are gone. A lot of them are off doing what they're doing. And so they know that it's a new group, and they know, like I said, what the expectation is. Now, I'm a little different than Coach Dalton in terms of like, hey, if we lose one game, it's over type of a thing. Not that we're not trying to achieve that same level of success, because that's always going to be the ultimate goal. It's no different than when I tell the kids in the classroom, like if a 4.0 is the best you can get, then that's what you're trying to get. You're not just trying to be eligible. You're trying to get that 4.0. So that's the same thing here. We're trying to go 13-0. That's the ultimate goal every single year, but we're ultimately trying to go 1-0 every week. I mean, that's the thing, and then the learning that comes from it. Sometimes you can get just as much learning from a loss, especially early on in the year, as you can from a win. And so, of course, we're gonna compete and prepare to win every damn game that we get an opportunity to play. But we know it's going to be challenging. We know that, especially early on, we always test ourselves with some out of area competition at a high level. That there's going to be some games where we're going to have to play really, really well to give ourselves a chance to win, especially with a young, experienced type of group. We go play, let's see here. We play Carson High School, which don't sleep on Carson High School. I'm telling you that right now in the 4A this year. We play them first game of the year, and then the very next game we host Foothill out of Vegas, who was a team last year that got, performed really well. They had to play in the open division for playoffs last year. They were the number 4 seed overall in the South.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So we host them second week, and then we go up to Meridian and Boise, Idaho. We play Mountain View High School, which is a perennial power up there at the top level of Idaho. I mean, they've won some state titles. They're typically top 4 team in the state every single year. That's going to be a huge test for us. And then we come back home the very next week and host Simi Valley out of LA. And then play Reno. And then play Reno, who again, I think is going to be don't sleep on them either. I think they're going to be a solid group as well. So, and that's our preseason, if you will, schedule before we get into the 5A North. So we're gonna know a lot about our team after those first few weeks of the season, in terms of what we're good at, what we need to work on, what kind of toughness we have. I mean, I feel like our strength, is really going to be on the line of scrimmage. I really feel good about the guys we're going to be able to put out there on the line of scrimmage on both the offensive and defensive lines. And then, I really like the way our skill guys on the defensive side came together at camp and continue to work and get better. I mean, if you saw us the first day at camp, I didn't think we were going to be very good defensively. I'll be honest with you, because we struggled. But as camp went on and we got better and the guys took it serious and we got to the last day and we were playing really well defensively, that got me excited, and I let the guys know that, like, hey, this could be something special once again, just seeing that progression over the course of 3.5 days, and offense always takes a little bit longer. Just because there's things that have to develop there with timing and new guys working together and stuff like that. And offense had some really good moments at camp too. And again, we expect to score points. We're going to be aggressive offensively, and defensively, we're going to fly around and hit people. We're going to be physical. I mean, that's what we do. Force turnovers, put the offense in situations to where they don't want to be in, take good players out of the game plan. By what we do schematically and who we can match up with them. And, we're excited. You guys get me fired up now. It's good.
Heck yeah. Well, so I got to bring this up that you mentioned Coach Borja, because this is about, first, the hotspot from Spanish Springs is, I think, way different now, because I don't know how much you know prior to 2015. I've been born and raised here. Spanish Springs, there was nothing out there in 2006. There was just the first section, like all those retail shops weren't even out there. So Spanish Springs has exploded in growth over the last 10 years, like tremendously. So the hotspot thing is probably not going anywhere soon. But the funny story I got for Coach Borja, just because I know that he'll probably remember this. It was 2006, my junior year. We had a pretty good team. We lost in regionals, but I remember Spanish Springs hated us. They were not fans of us whatsoever. And it was Spanish Springs home game, or a homecoming, sorry. And they printed about 500 purple Beat McQueen shirts and passed them out to the whole student body. And of course, we get wind of this before social media and all this stuff, right? We might even grab one before the game, and oh man, I can close my eyes.
I told you not to tell this damn story.
I can close my eyes. Well, it's nostalgic for me. And I can close my eyes on that bus ride over, just everyone dead silent on that bus. Like, okay, all right, let's see those purple shirts on homecoming. And sorry, Coach, we did lay the wood that night.
I'm sure.
Came back.
You said 2006. That was a hell of a team that you guys had. 06, 07, 08. Those were big time McQueen teams back then.
Yeah, and so Spanish Springs thought they were cute. I'm not gonna lie, gotta say loyal to McQueen a little bit, but that bus ride back wasn't so quiet. I can tell you that much. We were rowdy on that one back home for sure. But no, I love the rivalry within the city. It's fun, and kids nowadays is different. Back then, there's no social media. We couldn't share stuff back and forth. Now all these kids are so connected through social media that there's maybe not as much rivalry. We didn't talk to Reed kids. We didn't talk to Wooster kids. We didn't talk to any of those guys because they were just the enemies at that time.
Yeah.
But now these kids either have played Pop Warner forever together, flag football.
They hug each other.
The social media game has spread across the city so much.
They're nice.
Where but there's a love and foundation across this city that everyone knows. Like, damn, you're an athlete. I'm an athlete. Yeah. Let's ball out. Regardless of
I think it's cool though. I think it's cool.
It's amazing.
Yeah, because back in my day when we saw another athlete, and I shouted out Simi Valley because I used to live in Simi Valley. I've lived all over LA. And back in those days when it was what it was, it was what it was, bro. There was no friendships for real. We didn't train together. You stayed on your side, we stayed on our side. And I like it the way it is now. I truly do.
It's just a different way of life. But the athlete remains still supreme.
Yeah.
As it was back then. There's no difference in the quality of athlete. But and it's you guys got a gauntlet at the end of the season, right? With Reed, Minogue, McQueen kind of all cramped together. I think a lot of the schools kind of have that. It's a tougher. We just talked to DeMonte Ranch, and they got the same thing in terms of these powerhouses week after week after week heading into the playoffs. And we hope that everyone remains as healthy as possible for these games so they can put a good product on the field for everyone involved. But it's going to be an exciting year for you guys, Coach.
I think so. I want to ask you a question before we get out of here, Coach. Coach, what does a day-to-day look like for you? As a teacher, coach, husband, father, what does the day-to-day look like for you?
Well, you talking regular season, day-to-day?
Yeah. Because I'm sure it's probably a lot less of stress during the off season. You still have to stay on task with building your team in the off season, but like I can't imagine what that's like going into season, day one of pads, leading into this actual season of the first game, getting into the mid season when it starts to get a little cold. And what is that life like for you during the season?
Well, in a word, it's busy. It's a lot of 12, 13-hour days, from the time, getting up pretty early, trying to get in and do some prep, and then get the guys going in zero period, and then teaching a full slate of athletic weights, health, PE classes, throughout the course of the day, and then having some time to prep for practice in the afternoon. And then it just depends on the day. We run a pretty consistent week to week, in our game weeks, where we're like on a Monday, we have, some more prep time. And then we have, a lot of heavy special team stuff at practice on Monday. Tuesday is our defensive day. Wednesday's our offensive day. Thursday's our pregame, followed by, always go to the JV football game, whether we host or out of area. And then Friday's game day. Friday's the long day. It's pretty much, 6 a.m. to 10 p.m. type of a day. By the time we get out of there, and if we're on the road, it's even later than that. And then Saturday mornings are, we come in early as coaches. We'll meet. We bring the players in from 8 to 10:30, go over film, get them treatment if they need it, get them stretched out, little sweat going, get them on their way, and then coaches will hang out for a while and prep for the next opponent, going into the next week. And then for me, Sunday's a day of rest. I'm definitely a believer in that, and that's the day the Lord gave us to have that rest.
Yeah.
So that is what I do on Sundays. I need that day to recharge, clear my mind, and that's usually the day where I get to spend a lot of time with family. Early on in the fall, that's usually a day where my wife and I will go up to Lake Tahoe after we go to church service in the morning. Usually go up there and just relax on the beach for most of the day, and don't really do much of anything. Stay off my phone and hang out, get in Lake Tahoe and relax. My daughter is the only one still in high school now, and she's a volleyball player, so that creates a little bit more of a schedule constraint there, trying to get to her games and things like that as well during the football season. And I make a point to try to be able to do that. I've been lucky to be able to do that. Like I said, for all my kids to be where they're at. I don't coach volleyball, so I don't get to be there directly.
You can just be a dad at that point.
Right.
Yeah, I can just be a dad, exactly. So get and do that. And I don't know. I mean, I still find time I think it's important at the end of the day to spend time with your family. We try to eat dinner together, on a regular basis. Cool. So I think that's important. 3 dogs at the house, 2 of them I walk on a regular basis, and that's good for me in a lot of ways. And if you're a guy that's had dogs, you know what I'm talking about. It's just a different way to connect with somebody else and chill. And so I think those things are important because the season can get stressful. The season can get, it can drag on from time to time. But I think taking proper time to clear your head and mind is important. I think, I preach it all the time to the athletes, I fail at it sometimes too. I try not to get too high or too low. I try to, be as even keel as I can throughout things. Because I think emotional control is important, especially in the game of football. Yeah. I think it's important for kids to have that displayed in terms of what that looks like. Because it's easy to get worked up in a football game. It's easy to get worked up in life, and every kid that is in the program has their own life with its own set of stresses and circumstances and everything that they've got going on. And I think as coaches, we have to make that a consideration, in terms of, hey, like, approach each day like it's a new day and not, hold anything against anybody. And always remember that, hey, you have bad days, so do these kids. And so, you got to try to stay even keeled and catch yourself before you're doing that. So we as a staff try to hold each other accountable to that standard, and we preach that to the kids, that there's a certain standard of behavior that you have to have as a teammate. And we talk about what a good teammate looks like and what it doesn't. And those things are necessary throughout the season too, because more than anything, the players, especially, they just don't have the same level of maturity throughout the course of the season. There's times where you're going to have to pick guys up, whether it's a coach or a teammate or whatever else, right, because maybe they got banged up, or maybe they didn't have a very good game, or maybe they're disappointed with their role, or maybe they're getting too arrogant because they've had a lot of success.
Going really well.
I mean, so there's a lot of checks and balances that have to go on there that we talk about on a regular basis. Are we perfect at it? Absolutely not. But it's something that we work at day in and day out.
Now, Coach, let me ask you a question before we get out of here. That faith that you have, man, it's changed me. My faith in God has changed me tremendously throughout my life, and I kind of lean on Him because I can be a hothead myself. But now I've gotten to this place where I talk to him a little bit more, a whole lot more as an adult, especially like in all the endeavors that I'm in. You know, he's kind of my rod of guidance. Tell me, what does that play for you in your life and everything that you've been through and how you've gotten to this point? What does that faith play for you in your life right now?
It's probably the most critical part of my life, to be honest with you. I mean, you know, I was listening to something today actually and the guy was talking about, why does God allow bad things to happen, especially to good people and stuff like that, and talking about, well, a lot of times that's what you need to be able to get to know God. That, you know, when things don't go well, you know, to know that, hey, God can help get you through that if you lean, as you just said, lean into Him, talk to Him. You know that, you know, there's probably a way through it. You might not see it initially. There's always a lot of lessons that come from a lot of different things, and you know, something that I got in the habit of doing. I'll give a shout out to Jason Ellen, for those of you that, you know, maybe know Jason. Jason is running the Fellowship of Christian Athletes for Northern Nevada. Jason was a former head coach at Reno High, former assistant coach at McQueen High School, former head coach at North Valleys High School. He's a close friend of mine. He got me, you know, going with Fellowship of Christian Athletes at Spanish Springs High School, which has been really great for our school. So me and Coach Trevor Dix, who's one of our head track coaches, we run that, what's called a huddle up there. And it's just been great, you know, as to give athletes an outlet. But for me, I get in the Bible every day. I got something called a Coach's Bible, which I would highly recommend that you get yourself one if you're interested. And every day there's a message that's scripture that is related to coaching, and then it has something, you know, it has some additional scripture to go reflect on that's also related, you know, to that message for the day, and that helps get me centered every morning. And you know, I pray throughout the day. I pray on game night, you know, religiously. And I don't know how many games you guys were at last year, but I don't push anything on the guys. I you know, they know what I'm about, and I let them make their own decisions. But our guys were very involved in that last year, and I think it had a lot to do with our success, to be honest with you. Every single game when we took the field right before the game started, they ran together, and they did this on their own. I didn't have anything to do with it. They'd run all the way to the end zone as a team, and they'd take a knee and pray together before they'd come to our sideline. And a lot of them would pray after the anthem. They'd pray in the locker room. They'd pray post game. Some of them with other players of other teams. There's power in prayer. I mean, there is no doubt about it. There's no doubt about it, and it's been a huge part of my life with the different things that I've been through in a lot of different ways, and just
I think
just
you might
grateful.
be shining on us right now, behind us. To be honest,
Look at that.
If go ahead.
It came out of nowhere. Look at that.
It's just in time. We didn't have that before, so you know.
Well, I tell you what, Coach, man, I want to thank you for coming on our show, man.
If you could stick around just for a half second after we run our outro, just to talk to you for a second. But before we let you go ahead and shout out any of your people, your staff, your family, anybody you feel like letting them hear your voice.
Yeah, for sure. You know, we talked about them a little bit already, but my children, my oldest son Trey, my second oldest Tate, Brady, who's out at Iowa State right now, getting ready for the season. My daughter Aubrey, my wife Mandy. You know, my coaching staff, administration at Spanish Springs. You know, my family back in the Midwest. You know, and then obviously the Spanish Springs community and all the athletes couldn't do what we're able to do without the support that we have, and just grateful and blessed. And you know, I take my job very seriously in terms of what I do, and you know, I tell parents all the time that, you know, I'm gonna treat your son in a lot of ways as if he was my own, by you know, encouraging him, holding him accountable, and trying to teach them some life lessons, which I think this is all about. So appreciate you guys having me. I think it's cool what you guys got going here, getting some love out there. I agree with what you said earlier. I think there's a lot of talent in this region. A lot of it goes unchecked. I have a personal thing, just like you guys, trying to rectify that by letting people know what we have here and constantly make connections with coaches from all over the area. And for me, it's not just about the Spanish Springs kids. I mean, I'm very honest when I evaluate people that we play and when other coaches come to Spanish Springs, and they always ask, hey, who else in the area do we need to be looking at? And I let them know, and I have a good working relationship with all the head coaches in the area. I think there's a lot of good head coaches in northern Nevada area that really care. And we're all working together to put Northern Nevada on the map. I think we put a good product out there in a lot of different sports, football especially. In a lot of ways, we're unfortunately landlocked. I come from an area where you could throw a rock and hit a college that had football. With so many of them in the Midwest, where my son's at in Iowa, I think there's like 22 schools where you can play college football. And Nevada's got 2. And they're both Division I. So, we've got to be
a great point.
We got to be willing to get some connections with some of these schools on the West Coast, especially, and then continue to work our way east. Making connections with schools and finding spots. And once coaches know that they can get players out of an area, they're always going to come back.
You're right.
That's the important part, So
and that's what we're hoping to do at Cover 775 is bridge that gap for the coaches and all around, and continue to showcase these kids. And definitely shout out to the sources that we have inside of your family for those photos, for sure. Definitely big shout out to them. They worked on quick time. They worked on quick notice for us.
I have no idea how quick.
That is impressive. Yeah, I'm sure my mom hooked you up with a photo. Or I don't know, maybe my sister, brothers. I have no clue, but love my family. Love our community, and appreciate you guys.
Thank you, Coach. Stick around real quick after this outro, and thanks again for your time. This is Cover 775.
It's Rob Hummel. He's a state champion. Thank God for Rob, man.
Ain't no shortcuts. Every yard gotta earn it. Small town kids with a big city purpose. We bring the highlights, they bring the pressure. Friday night legends getting built by the quarter. Cameras rolling out, the whole state watching. Every touchdown got the whole crowd rocking. Northern Nevada put the city on the map. Cover 775 where the real ones at.